What's up, everyone? Welcome to the February 9th edition of DraftKings Tournament Plays presented by PrizePicks. I'm your host, Adam Scherer. You can follow me on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. And as a reminder, you get one free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum when you sign up and make a deposit at PrizePicks. Be sure to use the code Awesemo to receive a 100% first deposit bonus up to $100. Today, we're going to take a look at 5 of the top tournament options on DraftKings. As always, keep in mind that things are going to change between now and lock. Be sure to tune in to the deeper dive and live before lock from 5 Eastern up until tip. We certainly could see some trades throughout the day. We're waiting on some injury news. But for now, we're going to take a look at 5 of the top options as they currently stand. Starting at number 5, Kelly Oubre, far from a contrarian option tonight. He's projected for about 34% ownership, but he also has a 37% chance of being in the optimal lineup right now, according to the Boom Bust tool on the Awesemo.com website. Oubre should play a ton of minutes tonight. He subbed in for Gordon Hayward after Hayward's injury last game. Oubre started the second half. He played about 38 of a possible 42 minutes after Hayward's injury. And one thing we've seen from Charlotte this season is that typically when they're shorthanded, they're a team that prefers to run a more condensed rotation, giving additional minutes to their normal rotation players, as opposed to some other teams where they add a player or two that normally isn't in the rotation. They start giving them minutes and they keep the starters' minutes or the main rotation players' minutes more or less where they otherwise would be. Charlotte just gives a ton of minutes to the guys that they would normally play. So it's very reasonable to expect another 36 to 38 minutes from Kelly Oubre tonight. He's averaged just shy of a DraftKings point per minute this season and is just very clearly underpriced for his assumed role here. Number 4, Steph Curry, projected for 8% ownership, 11% chance of being in the optimal lineup. He's only $10,300 on DraftKings tonight. And one thing that really stands out about Curry, we know that for an expensive player, he's relatively scoring dependent and always has a high ceiling, but it can be tough to prioritize him since he doesn't rebound at the level that most other very expensive players rebound at. His assist numbers are good, but not otherworldly. But one thing that really stands out about Curry is so far this year, he's played about 210 minutes without Draymond Green on the floor and with Klay Thompson on the floor. In those 200 plus minutes, Curry only has a 20.6% usage rate. Now, I don't expect that to be the case for the rest of the season. I think it increases as time goes on. But the reason I think that's important to point out is we've seen, Klay Thompson's been active in a bunch of games recently, and that's having a negative impact on Curry, which is leading to his salary dropping. Klay Thompson's not playing tonight. In the minutes that Curry has played without either one of Thompson or Green on the floor, he has a 32.7% usage rate. He's averaged 1.39 DraftKings points per minute over that stretch, as opposed to 1.26 DraftKings points per minute when Klay is on the floor. So I think this is a situation where you're getting essentially a different version of Stephen Curry than what his price is at least partly based on right now. So it's just an example of somebody that isn't getting much ownership and is in a bit of a different situation than he's priced for. Number 3, Anthony Edwards, $8,200 shooting guard, small forward eligible, projected for 4% ownership with an 8% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Edwards has a favorable matchup against the Sacramento Kings tonight. He's averaged 1.09 DraftKings points per minute this season with about a 27.5% usage rate. We know that Edwards is inconsistent, but that's part of the reason why his ownership is as low as it is, and part of the reason why he's not that expensive at only $8,200. When his shot's falling, he can just absolutely take over a game, and he gives you a massive ceiling in a good spot with guard and forward eligibility at low ownership. Number 2, Dennis Smith Jr., $4,100 point guard, projected for 4% ownership with a 9% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Dennis Smith Jr. is a very risky option. Last night, he played about 20 minutes, but he also subbed in for about 5 minutes at the end of the game, where he probably wouldn't have if the game were competitive. So you could make the case that he really was only supposed to play 15 to 16 minutes last night. Obviously, that's not anything you'd be excited about. But the reason that I'm interested in him in tournaments is it's likely that the Blazers only have 9 players active tonight. On average, if you're going to, let's say you'll get 16, 17 minutes from Dennis Smith Jr., he's around a 0.9 fantasy point per minute guy. That's not going to get it done at 4,100. But this is the second half of a back-to-back. Justice Winslow played almost 33 minutes last night. What if Justice Winslow only plays 28 minutes tonight? That's certainly not a crazy thing to think about. You could very easily just see, him play a little bit less on the second half of a back-to-back, and you could see those minutes go directly to Dennis Smith Jr. If anything happens, whether it's Simon's getting in foul trouble. Winslow playing a few less minutes than he did last night. CJ Ellaby playing less than 34 minutes that he played last night. If any of these guys play less, it's likely that Dennis Smith Jr. is picking up more run, and he's a productive point per minute guy. So it's just a situation where, the floor is very low, because if he does play 16 minutes, you're probably in trouble. But there's just a variety of things that could happen where Dennis Smith Jr. plays several minutes more than people are projecting, and you get him at very low ownership and a cheap price tag. And then number one, sticking with the Portland Trailblazers, another bench option, Trendon Watford is only $3,100 on DraftKings. He's only center eligible. He's averaged 0.88 DraftKings points per minute this season, currently projected for 12% ownership with a 19% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Watford played 20 minutes last night. Yusuf Nurkic played 34 minutes. So that's a good sign for Watford, because he was backing up Nurkic as usual, but he also did get about 6 minutes alongside Nurkic. That's a big deal, because if he was only backing him up, it would be very difficult to expect him to play enough minutes to matter. But if we can get 6 minutes or so alongside Nurkic from Watford, he's likely to pretty easily pay off that $3,100 salary. So to recap, the top 5 tournament options on DraftKings as things currently stand: number 5, Kelly Oubre; number 4, Stephen Curry; number 3, Anthony Edwards; number 2, Dennis Smith Jr.; and number 1, Trendon Watford.